Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, how you doing?
Sam Healey, what's up, folks?
So what's in this review? Spoilers.
Spoilers!
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers. We're warning you right now. You will be spoiled if you continue to watch this review.
Bye.
We did a non-spoiler review of this, but
Go
this
see
is
that.
the newest expansion for T.I.M.E Stories, a new scenario, Lumen Fidei, in which you are helping some crusaders deliver. Well, you're trying to find a green stone.
Yeah, you're trying
That's
to find
the
an
thing.
emerald, basically.
So let's talk about the story part of this first, because I think we kind of differ on the story. You went in you said you didn't enjoy the medieval theme.
Yeah, he doesn't like history, right?
It's
I don't
not-
like
I
that.
don't believe that's what he said.
That part of that chapter of history.
You know, I'm not
really
a huge fan actually of medieval history myself. I think knights are
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with the theming in this one is the knights were all interchangeable. I actually did not know the difference between any of them.
Which is how most knights were back then. So
That's fine. And the story was kind of at the beginning, it was like they kept telling it like this alternate biblical history, right? This, and it was kind of like in the background. And the story really picked up for me when we got to the point where it was like, choose the priest or choose the demon woman.
the djinn, yeah. The genie, yeah.
Yes.
And it seemed like the genie was the better choice combat-wise. Even in our game, she sucked for the most part.
She wasn't bringing it.
But I really liked at the end how they both would have transformed.
Yes.
The priest transforms into an angel. I was like, why didn't we take that priest?
Right.
And he was actually more powerful than the genie was.
So that storyline was interesting. I thought the final battle was a little samey in the sense we were fighting one big guy with demons and bats and all that. That wasn't that interesting.
I liked it.
I liked it. It's like, ooh, we go fight the big bad guy.
Yeah.
This is the first one that's done that since Prophecy of Dragon, where there's like one big bad guy and we're like,
Yeah.
take his minions out. That was cool. Theming wise again. But for me, the best parts of the game was the timey-wiminess of it. So my favorite theming points are when we found an old guy who's like, here's a thing that does some time, gives you time units. I don't know what this is. Or when the woman says, we're also both in bodies, and they're talking about how they're jumping through. And we meet the one guy who's like, have we met before?
Yeah.
That stuff is fascinating to me.
Right.
That's what keeps me in this series.
Well, that's the thing for me. That's what I like about Time Stories, when it winks at you. You know what I mean? I don't like I jump back in time, and then I'm just actually in that time period without any wild, crazy stuff going on. So, like, for example, I was sort of finding myself at an even keel there till I came across that gargoyle. And I'm like, what, a gargoyle? And then the thing flies off into the night, and I'm like, I'm awake again. Because that's unexpected. It's like a moment of breaking that reality. They base it in history, which is very good. But unless they inject some crazy stuff in there every now and then.
But that was only like one of the 3 or 4 times that happened during this scenario.
Yeah, but it basically almost did not happen the entire first act.
Well, there's always got to be an introduction to every story, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. It felt a little like, all right, when are we going to get to some crazy stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the first act, I think we probably did a lot of things wrong, or actually I think the first time we ran through, we actually did pretty good, because we got some things that later on we found we actually needed, like that elixir that you got from after drinking that tea and spending 2 time units for doing it. We actually could have used that in the third act.
Right.
And the second time we went through that, we were like, we don't need that. We actually did. So I think we just made poor decisions in that first act that lessened the impact of Act 1.
By the way, now that you mentioned, I couldn't say this in the non-spoiler one, but I can say here, by far the biggest thing I disliked about this scenario was when you went from Act 1 to Act 2, there was no going back. We were stuck with those characters.
Yeah.
We were stuck with the stuff that we got.
That was my biggest
And that
gripe.
sounds neat at first until we were like, oh, we're in a huge combat area and we could have brought in some people better for combat, but we can't go back and try it. See, Time Stories has always been about, like, the thing I like about Prophecy of Dragons was, oh, the wizard would have been good to have. Okay, well, next time we'll bring the wizard.
Yeah. Right.
Well, here it was like, oh, too late for you guys.
Right.
And then we went from Act 2 to Act 3. You still didn't get to go change the characters. And later on, they're like, if you have this character, well, we don't. Like the priest guy, for example. We didn't have to get that priest and bring him with us.
Correct.
And the woman, we didn't have to take the woman with us either.
Right.
Or I guess we could have. I think you get her no matter what if the priest isn't there. But if the priest, let's say I really wanted that priest at the end, we wouldn't have had that option if we just hadn't grabbed him.
Right.
And you can't go back and get him then.
Yeah.
That really bugged me.
Well, I mean, again, going back to the storyline aspect, we were supposed to usher that guy, the legate, to the castle, and so it was like the story was almost forcing you, but not really. You should be taking this guy with you, and if you don't, you're not doing it right. You know, that kind of idea.
Yeah, we don't know that. We met a preacher in one of the ones, and the guy shot us, threw us into a monster. I thought that we were supposed to help him. There's been a lot of times in Time Stories where you are supposed to do something. It's like, oh, help the girl out. And so
that's part of the point. You don't know, right?
Right, so I didn't know that guy was important. And again, I'm okay with that because you can go back and do it, but you couldn't go back and do it. And then that coupled with the middle act, which I really disliked, which was they decided to, let's add movement on the board to this game where you're moving around.
I thought that was clever, okay? The fact that they took the map and broke it, right? I mean, it's always been a map with locations and you jump from any one you want to any other one. The fact that they went, okay, now it's a bunch of locations connected by roads and it's going to take you time units to actually follow the roads. Cool idea. I like it.
I didn't even mind the wandering bad guy. But the way the map was, I agree, cool idea with the wandering bad guy, also cool. But the wandering bad guy, first of all, was
a beast.
Yeah. And secondly, there was like only a few spots in the map where you could go to where there wasn't a chance that they would grab you. It wasn't like, oh, I don't want to go the long way around, but that's the way we'll go to avoid the bad guy. Or, oh, let's meet him head on. No, that guy was going to get you no matter what.
Right. Just about.
And wow, fighting that thing was so unfun. Again, because we had one. Can you imagine if we had brought 3 non-fighters?
Yeah.
What if he hadn't brought a fighter for that time?
True.
Would we have even made it through that act?
I don't know.
That's not okay. That breaks the game. I mean, it didn't happen. But if you're stuck,
it goes back to party composition. I mean, and that's like a basic thing from role-playing games and all this other kind of stuff. You don't ever not take a fighter. You don't ever not take one of these guys. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a basic thing. But if we had done that and we had gotten to that act, I know, but I don't think most people are going to do that. I think somebody, whenever you play this, somebody's going to want to be that Teutonic Knight.
What if you play a 2-player game though?
I don't know. Well, you're supposed to play 2 characters each. So.
I think with so many people saying that it's so combat heavy, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I guess if we keep pushing that aspect of it.
Anyway,
I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, go back.
No. I was going to actually jump to. We've been talking about combat a lot, and I agree with you that middle act was clever, punishing. What about puzzles in the game? What did you guys think about that?
Well, it took me a while to figure out that we were at a dead end, and we had to do a puzzle to go farther. There wasn't the same. It's the same thing that happened in Asylum, right? In Asylum, we were like, what do we do next? And we knew we had a couple clues. We didn't know how to use them. And it really threw us for a loop because the one thing we needed was on the narration card. And you almost never go back and look at the narration cards.
Right.
You look at the other cards that are there. I don't always go, oh, what did that say again? No, we just look at the stuff there.
And that fact was not even, it was maybe remotely alluded to somewhere else. But even then, it was only like at one other spot where you needed to use that poem. That was written by that Ibn Al, whatever his name was.
Well, next week you'll be able to see us play the game, and you can sit there and go, oh, I would have figured it out faster. Maybe you would have. We got papers all over the floor where I was writing stuff and didn't know it was letters or words, and we actually got a couple hints from Derek, who was surfing the internet. But there's going to be some people who will literally not finish the game because if you can't figure that puzzle out, you cannot go farther.
Well, here's my main beef, and I know you're gonna say I'm crazy for thinking this, and obviously, spoilers, obviously. I don't even mind that the poem is on the other card. That's cool. They haven't done that before, as far as I can remember. I like that. That's interesting. The puzzle is difficult. Yes, you need to not brute force it. You actually have to figure it out. Cool. I like that too. I don't think it's okay to put a piece of the game that is not in what they expect you to keep.
No, that I love. I think that's brilliant.
I could have easily thrown the box away.
You know, you said that, and Jason said something to me about this, about a different thing. People keep saying that, but has it ever happened? Has anyone ever played a game and threw the box away first before they even played the game?
Sure, why not?
No. Because let's say, no, because any normal person would keep the box until they played it. Then you get rid of the box. No one's going to...
No, I don't, that's not a hard and fast rule. I keep my time story...
I need empirical evidence that it's happened. It hasn't happened in this, and you'll never do it ever for any puzzle game or any time story scenario.
Well, now
Especially
they're
after
punishing it. Yeah, right.
I think that stuff is hilarious. It happened in a escape room game thing one time, and I thought, brilliant. I would think.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's interesting. I just think it's fragile. Someone could throw the box away.
Dangerous.
What happens if we had thrown the box away?
Again, I cannot fathom that I would have done that.
What happens if we got this at Essen and you need to pack it smaller?
That's a really specific scenario.
Let's just say that happened. Then what? That's exactly my point.
I think this is a very small problem. Very few people are going to have.
I think it's a problem enough where it bothered me. I thought it was very clever. Don't get me wrong. It's brilliant. Woo. But
it happened to me.
It happened to Derek. Yeah. It's dangerous. This isn't part of the game, technically. The box it came in is not something I expect to need.
Well, I'd like to go on record how highly, like sometimes I disagree with Z. I am as far to the other end. I throw away more boxes than almost anyone in existence for board games. I do. I throw away inserts and stuff. But I don't do it before I played the game or the expansion. I've never done that.
Because what if you don't like the expansion? You want to get
right. I would put it back in a box and sell it. I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
What did you think of the second puzzle?
I liked it much better than the first.
It was also a lot easier.
It's easier, but it's also more...
It takes some thinking, though. It wasn't that obvious.
I liked it much more. It was a little bit... I would have loved to have 3, 4 small, smaller, like a little sort of simpler puzzles like this than that monstrosity, and then a small... There were literally 2 puzzles in the game, unless we missed something, which is interesting to me because the whole... from what I've heard, people are thinking this is like, oh, it's finally a nice balance again of combat and puzzles. This is combat heavy with a puzzle and a half in it.
And there was very few search actions or other things that weren't combat. It was always like, hey, would you like... And there was even one thing where the guy's like, we can negotiate with the guy. And then when we were done negotiating, he's like, we're fighting anyway.
Yes.
I was like, are you kidding me? We're fighting again?
Yeah, right.
If I was playing this through again, I'd be like, all right, I'm taking the best fighter.
But again, that is thematic for this period.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, this was a combat-heavy period of time where there was a fight around every corner, it probably seemed, if you were in the wrong area of the world. But, so I thought it was, again, I thought it was a really neat aspect of the game. The puzzles, I thought, were good because they weren't so much, I don't know, again, I'm struggling with the kind of word, the word I'm looking for. It wasn't a number crunchy type of thing, even though it used numbers. You know what I'm saying?
It was a cipher, basically, the first one.
Yeah, and I guess I just enjoy that kind of thing a little bit better than having an actual, like in the first one, you actually
don't spoil anything from a different one, but...
Yeah.
Well, here's my main thing about the puzzles. I love these puzzles, and they're a big part of the game.
Yeah.
However, since the last scenario we played of this one, and the one before that, okay, since that time, they've released like 12, 13 different puzzle room games.
Yes.
There's a ton of these games out there now. Those games give me these puzzles. They're really good. I haven't played one I disliked. Well, I played one I disliked, but for the most part, I liked most of them. The puzzles are interesting. So those puzzles, I'm getting my puzzle fix from other games. So the T.I.M.E Stories game, the puzzles are great. They can be part of it. I still like that. I want them to be part of it. But the rest of it needs to come up to the standards too. The story needs to be super interesting. The puzzles alone aren't good enough because I can get it from puzzle games. So my rating for this actually might be a little lower because puzzle games exist. I know that sounds bad, but it's really the truth of it. The T.I.M.E Stories now needs to come along with the story. And there was some great moments in this game. Mostly when I found out, like when the lady said I'm in a receptacle, I'm like, oh. And when they alluded to something that we learned in the previous things, I love the whole overarching story. I love that.
Yeah. Whenever they touch on that stuff, it's fantastic.
It's fantastic. I thought the very beginning of the game was ramrodding, and I get there's a mechanical reason why they're doing the 10 and the 20 then the 30 time units, but I didn't like it. I didn't like that we only had 10 time units in our first run. And then we went to our second run with 20 time units. We still had to do the stuff we did in those first 10 time units.
Yeah.
We didn't, like, Arctic one did it in a different way. And I thought that was much more interesting.
It was very similar.
But
Matter of fact, I was just thinking it was very much like the Expedition one.
Yeah, but the Expedition one, again, I'm trying not to spoil that one.
We don't want to spoil other ones. So that one did it better, I thought. Anyway, mechanically, what did you guys think of what this scenario brought to the table? The main mechanical innovation here being that that morality scale, right? Would that be called a morality? That scale, right? What did you think of it?
It was okay. It didn't feel like the choices were always that difficult.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean,
well, if you just go into it saying I'm going to do everything bad, which is kind of what you did.
I think we would have had a better time at that too. I think we would have had a better time if we had all picked all bad characters or all good characters. I think that we would have then pushed the morality to the one edge. We would have all got extra dice on the rolls, and that would have helped out a ton.
Right.
We had a much easier time with combat for sure, and maybe that's what the game is trying to teach you.
Maybe that's it. But again, you get one shot at this stuff.
Which is again thematic because usually parties don't integrate morality that way. They're usually all good or they're usually all bad.
I really worry that we're going to put up our playthroughs next week and people will be like,
"You're an idiot,
morons!"
Exactly.
Morons. But I don't also think that we are a bad cross section of people doing this either. Like I think a lot of people are going to run into the same things. I think this is going to be a polarizing one, just like Prophecy of Dragons. I think a lot of people are going to say this is their favorite one. And I think some people are going to agree with that as their least favorite. I don't think you'll find many people in the middle. That's where I think.
I kind of...
Because this is one of your favorites, right?
It's my second favorite, as a matter of fact.
Was your first Prophecy?
No.
What's your first?
Marcy Case.
That's what's interesting about T.I.M.E Stories is like your listing is very different than mine.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I would probably put them in Marcy Case, this one, Prophecy.
Arctic?
Arctic might be...
Expedition Endurance?
Yeah, Expedition Endurance. It might be like even with Prophecy of Dragons.
Yeah, for me it's Prophecy, Expedition Endurance, Asylum. Those are the top three. Easy. Then Marcy Case, I like that one. That's close, but it's not as good as the other three. And then this and the Egyptian one, the Mask.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too. I think my favorite was Prophecy, then Asylum, and then Expedition Endurance.
Yeah, maybe this one just took too long to get started. But this is definitely
my bottom one, that's for sure.
It's easily the longest one, I thought, don't you think?
For us, it was anyway, right? For us,
we died a lot. Yeah, again, maybe going back, if we were like, hey, let's speed run this thing, I probably could finish this really fast. Like, let's take 3 holy characters. We'll take the priest. We'll go. We'll ignore everything else. We'll get the items we need, which is all about. But I dislike that we couldn't go back and do that.
Yes.
All right. Well, either way, tell us what you think in the comments. Don't read the comments. Well, of course, if you just watch the video.
Yeah.
You should probably not spoil. Don't spoil stuff in the comments, though, right? Because people might read the comments anyway, though that's not a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell me.
You know what? Do whatever you want.
Well, no.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Internet's melting. All right, anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia. Thanks, everybody.
Sam Healey. See you on the flip side.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.